She, at the Bush Center, has launched the Women's Policy Action Initiative Council, of which I'm part of, very proudly. And why I'm underscoring this with you is because of her dedication, her commitment to human rights for women worldwide, but especially at this critical time for Afghanistan, when we are in the process of withdrawing and drawing down our troops. The question is, what's the future of Afghanistan? And today, in fact, the First Lady, former First Lady, Mrs. Bush, will address this issue, and we're lucky indeed. So please join me in welcoming.
As Paula said, she actually serves on 2 of our advisory councils at the Bush Institute. She's on the advisory council for the Women's Initiative, and our program director for the Women's Initiative at the Bush Institute, Charity Wallace, is with me over here, traveling with me today. And then she serves on the Human Freedom Program Advisory Council, and was just in Dallas recently for their meeting. And I want to thank her very much for asking me to drop by and give a speech to you all while you're here. The World Affairs Council National Conference, and it is true, the Dallas World Affairs Council is so active. You read about something they do weekly, at least, in the newspaper, and I want to thank everyone from Dallas, especially for everything you're doing in Dallas to get the word out about world affairs. And I want to thank all of the audience here for your interest in world affairs and for giving me this chance to talk about one of my deep interests, and that is the lives of women in Afghanistan. George and I are now back home in Dallas, living what I call the afterlife, in a state that he calls the promised land. But even in this afterlife, we still have a deep commitment to the people of Afghanistan. So during this time of transition, both as our troops draw down and as they approach their first real elections since the election of President Karzai, it's more important than ever for all Americans to remain committed to the people of Afghanistan. I worry that as our troops leave, our gaze will shift and we won't keep watching and keep working and keep supporting all the groups that support women there. We all know that women are absolutely vital to every aspect of society. We know when we look around the world, when you see countries where half of the population is marginalized or half of the population is left out, you see a country that's failing. And it's really important to make sure that in Afghanistan that doesn't happen again. When women are educated, their families are healthier, their children are in school, and when women can join in the economic and political life of their communities, their countries become more stable and prosperous. So through the Bush Institute's Women's Initiative, we're working to give women the access they need to learn to have the skills for success through access to education and health care and economic opportunity. Our Afghan Women's Project is really a research project that's working with women in Afghanistan to spotlight their successes and to tell their personal stories, and I think you're going to get to hear from a couple of women in Afghanistan in a minute. We're highlighting the effective programs that are supporting women in Afghanistan on the ground right now. And some of these programs were founded by American women through the U.S. Afghan Women's Council. As Paula just said, in 2002, President Bush and President Karzai established the U.S. Afghan Women's Council to give individual American citizens a way to partner with Afghan women to help them recover from decades of conflict and oppression. From education and healthcare to business and government, council initiatives have responded to all different sorts of needs throughout Afghanistan. The U.S. Afghan Women's Council is now 11 years old. It's housed here in the United States at Georgetown University, and I've just come from a meeting of the U.S. Afghan Women's Council. There was also a summit sponsored by the Bush Institute, the U.S. Afghan Women's Council, the U.S. Alliance to Support the Afghan People, and Georgetown University's Institute for Peace, Women, and Security. Former Secretary Hillary Clinton and I both spoke. We did a moderated conversation together with Milan Bavir, who's was the ambassador for global women's issues, and then current Secretary of State John Kerry spoke and gave really an important address about what we should do in the United States as we both draw down our troops, as we work on our bilateral agreement that we have still in the works right now. And both of them being there demonstrated the Obama administration's commitment to furthering our commitment to the women of Afghanistan, which I'm very happy to see. 12 years ago this week, the Taliban regime retreated from Kabul. So for the first time in their lives, children were free to fly kites. Women emerged from behind their burqas, and girls could once again dream of going to school. The image of Afghanistan today stands in stark contrast to what we saw in November 2001, when women were beaten for even going out of their house. No one wants to see Afghanistan's progress reversed or its people returned to the restrictions that mark the Taliban's rule. In the first half of this year, though, according to the United Nations, Afghanistan's civilian death rate jumped alarmingly. Because of the deliberate targeting of civilians by anti-government forces, the death rate for women and children jumped 38% compared to the same period last year. A culture of fear still silences women. The consequences of intimidation and violence against women threaten to undermine Afghanistan's success. And assaults on women erode the security for all Afghan people, men and women. A culture that tolerates injustice against one group of people ultimately fails to respect and value all of its citizens. Promoting the inclusion of women in society is crucial to Afghanistan's future. And U.S. Afghan Women's Council programs are working to ensure women's full participation. So I want to tell you just about a few of them that you can continue to support even after our troops leave. When I visited Bamiyan province in 2008, I met with some of the weavers from Arzu, a company that sells traditional rugs woven by Afghan women, and supported and founded, in fact, by a member of the U.S. Afghan Women's Council. These weavers told me what a difference Arzu had made in their lives, that learning the skill gave them confidence and earning an income gave them status and respect from their husbands. While working in Arzu, the women take classes. They learn to manage their income and to budget it wisely, and they become informed consumers. I commissioned a rug for our ranch from Arzu, and then I bought 2 rugs for the White House for Arzu, and now we have Arzu rugs at the Bush Center in Dallas. Americans can support Afghan women through Arzu's work, and you can find it on the internet. You can just give a small donation, which means a lot to a single weaver for thread and for other materials, or you can just buy a rug yourself. In Kabul in 2005, I announced the opening of the American University in Afghanistan, the country's only private, non-for-profit university for men and women. Enrollment this past spring reached 958 students, 50% of them women. And just when Hillary Clinton and I did the moderated conversation, we were joined via video conference by students from the American University in Afghanistan. They asked the questions to us. They want to know what they're going to do once the security is gone and what will happen without security. And of course, we all know that in any country, that's not secure, where you don't have rule of law and security forces, it's going to be very hard for them to prosper. But you can give, if you're interested, to American University in Afghanistan directly to support scholarships for women there. Many American corporations and private organizations also are supporting women in Afghanistan, from Kate Spade, New York, who wanted to do something for the women, so they studied and looked around and they found out that Afghanistan had once been one of the best producers of the finest cashmere. And so they went to Afghanistan. They made a large, over $1 million investment to buy the looms that you need to weave the thread from the goats, from cashmere goats to make cashmere. And so I want you to encourage you to use Kate Spade products here in the United States, and to thank them also for their commitment to the women of Afghanistan. Women to Women International is there, and so is Sesame Workshop. So little kids in Afghanistan, if they have electricity, can watch television and see Sesame Street that is appropriate for children in Afghanistan. And all of those are working to, each one of these corporations and companies are working to better the lives of women and girls in Afghanistan. In 2008, a woman that I know, Raja Jan, returned to Afghanistan after 38 years of living in the United States to start a girls' school in a village outside Kabul. She knows the challenges and the threats that girls face, and she finds creative ways to solve them. She teaches her very young female students to write their father's name first, before they even learn how to write their own name. So when they go home and their dads see them writing their names, they decide to send their girls back to school. This clever tactic instills pride in their fathers, and pride in their father's pride in their daughters. John worked to create a safe haven so that girls can go to school in safety. At the Bush Institute's conference on education and literacy that we hosted when we returned to Dallas in 2010, we heard from one of Afghanistan's great literacy advocates, Dr. Sakina Yakubi. She was also there this morning. At great risk to her own life, Dr. Yakubi operated underground literacy centers during the years of the Taliban. And she now runs more than 50 women's centers across Afghanistan, providing hundreds of thousands of women with literacy and health classes. Dr. Yakubi was with us this morning, and this week, you may have read it, she received the Opus Prize, a $1 million grant for her work in Afghanistan. At our conference in Dallas, and I'll never forget it, she said, "Listen, don't feel sorry for us, just be with us." And that's what we need to do now, especially as our troops draw that down. We need to be with them. President Bush and I are proud to stand with the women of Afghanistan. We're invested in their success, and we admire their persistence in pursuing equality and opportunity, especially with the many, many risks they still face. And they want equality and opportunity for all the people of Afghanistan, men and women, and boys and girls. So please join us and get the word out in your own communities to everyone that you talk to make sure they continue to look at Afghanistan and continue to support the people there, especially the women. And thank you all. Thanks so much for everything you do in your own community.